Welcome to Blue Monday from the Blue Room. I am joined as ever by Dave and Roger. If you're listening on a podcast, please do share us, give us a like, leave a comment. If you're listening on YouTube, do subscribe, like, share, all the rest of it. Anyway, let's get into this. 2-2 against Ipswich, disappointing result. Said on Saturday, it felt more like it was about the occasion of a lot of people's final time at Goodison. I'm still not sure how we didn't win that game, but nothing's really changed in my head. Sometimes after post-match, you have time to reflect over the weekend and things change in your head. Nothing's really changed for me since the weekend. What about you, Dave? It's a bit baffling for me.
Yeah, not really. We've got that. I think what it does is it proves the same old things that we've still got to iron out, doesn't it? I mean, this happened under Dice. This has now happened under Moyes. Seems to be something that's an underlying issue there with a lot of the players in the squad that we've got there. We tend to just absolutely bottle it when we don't know how to control a game that you should essentially go on and win quite comfortably. Goodison as well, which is ironic, really, isn't it? Because we've only got one game left there, so maybe that's something that you don't even look at or do when you get to Bramley-Moore. Just looking at that table there, I mean, it's really, really weird. I was sitting there watching Man United get ripped apart by Brentford and Spurs struggling to get a point at West Ham. And I'm thinking, how poor are those sides there to finish below us? And our record form at the moment, it's basically just what you think of draws. If you think draws are decent, then Everton have done well. If you think draws are crap, then Everton have done poorly. I think that's sort of the mentality that many fans have with this. Excuse me. I feel, and I hate the feeling of getting to this stage towards the end of a season where you're like, should we give this guy a go? Should we give that guy a go? Schmitty, do you start him? Calvert-Lewin, do you get him sort of to say goodbye or / I'm going to sign a new contract? All feels a little bit awkward at the moment, I feel. And the performance ended up being like that. Having gone 2-0 up against an already relegated side, we just decided to let ourselves fall apart, really. And the one thing I was really excited about, I think we've hinted at it in the past, is seeing Branthwaite next to O'Brien as the two central defenders. Not too sure how great that was, particularly with the first goal they score, one of the goals of the season contenders. I have no problem with that, but the goal that they score to get the equaliser, not too sure what the pair of them are doing there when you've got somebody who comes in at the back post and nods one home when the pair of them are like 9 foot tall. How are they not spotting the lad that's behind them on the back post? But I know obviously we don't want to turn this into a post match, but yeah, I think we're starting to get a lot of clues, the answers to a lot of clues to what you've got to go and do in summer and how quick you've got to go and address them as well, I think.
Yeah, right. As Dave said there, that's the 4th time we've thrown a 2-goal lead this season. Yeah. Almost did against Spurs as well. At the weekend, it's so against Bournemouth in particular, there was absolute panic when they scored. Same against Man United. There wasn't panic so much as you thought they're not going to get beat. They're going to get back into this game and draw at level at United. Didn't feel like that on Saturday. At no point did I think Ipswich were going to get back into it. What did you make of it?
I just don't think anybody fears coming to Goodison anymore, or anybody fears playing us at home. I mean, you could argue it's really positive. We won 4 games at home all season. I think that's all. So at least there's no pressure on Bramley-Moore to, it's not like, we've got this incredible home record that we have to take on to Bramley-Moore. You'd like to think next season we'll win more than 4 bloody games at home in the season. That record of throwing away or conceding late goals, throwing away a 2-goal lead is we're only the second team to do that, and the previous team to do that was West Brom, the mighty West Brom, in 2013-14. I mean, what a record!
West Brom season as well, though.
Yeah, there's a mentality thing. It's got to be a mentality thing. I mean, you may be a bit distracted. It was a great day, emotional day for a lot of people. A lot of people's last time at the ground, and the football was like just an afterthought, really. But you get into a 2-0 lead, you think, okay, here we go, and we're playing relegated Ipswich, who are crap defensively. Might be a bit of a threat going forward. You win the game 4-5-2, don't you? You go in at half time. That wonder goal's giving you a wake up call. We came out in the second half and just didn't do anything really. Didn't pose much of a threat. And if anything, towards the end of the game and in added time, it looked like the Tractor Boys might even nick it. That would have been hilarious. It's a funny one because we're in this state of limbo, aren't we? And we're all really going through the emotion of saying goodbye to the ground and remembering the good times and the bad times we've had there. And the football is kind of incidental, so they're getting away with it. This is 1 win in 10 under Moyes. Dyche got sacked after 1 win in 11. So this is not a good run. There are some draws going in there, and the football's kind of petered out a little bit. Even McNeil's come back into the team, and that's could have given it a bit more structure. I like the lineup, but there's still, I don't know. I don't think we're even going through the motions. I'm not sure there are any motions to go through. We're just, like they said on post-match, Keith, who said on post-match, something happened and we were there, and that's it, really.
Yeah. I think something I'd picked up on was that it looked like we were trying to play with more attacking fullbacks, which obviously that's a system that Moyes likes. It's one he introduced first time round. Do you think fullbacks are going to be a priority? It seems like every position now is a bit of a priority in the summer, doesn't it?
Such a mess, isn't it? And such a mess. Yeah, I think so. Well, style. Look, what it comes down to is who the hell's going to make the decisions, really. I mean, that's whatever we want to do. Who's going to decide whether DCL gets a new contract or not? Is that simply down to David Moyes? Who's going to decide on Jack Harrison? Is that simply down to David Moyes? I mean, you do need a structure. I'm happy that Moyes has got decent sound judgment, but people do. There need to be people underneath him or alongside him that are going to hold him to account. Our chief executive is still at Leeds. He doesn't come in until the 1st of June. So it's confusing, Les. We've got priorities all over the pitch, perhaps other than central midfield, really, other than giving Idrissa a new contract and him and Garner, and maybe you keep Mangala because he hasn't really had much of a chance, and you've got kind of 3 holding midfielders there competing for 2 slots, and hopefully we keep Pickford. Everywhere else in the pitch, everything's up for grabs. So what are the priorities? What's the budget? But who's making the bleeding decisions? I'm confused.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the summer, because I think they've said basically Moyes is going to have a lot of sway on who gets bought, and we've been in that position before. But is there going to, like you say, Roger, anyone going to be holding him to account? Obviously,
he was very positive on Football Focus were all over it on Saturday, and he was very positive. When he was interviewed on the pitch, that the Friedkins have told me there will be money to spend. Thelwell's out the door, and this Nick Hammond chap's coming in, and Kinnear knows him. Maybe Dan Purdy. I was reading a piece by Paddy and the Athletic in terms of this recruitment structure. You're going to have Moyes, you're going to have Kinnear and Moyes, and then some people doing things like player identification. Is that scouting? Is it? I don't know. Presumably, I think that's.
Making sure they've got ID going into a nightclub.
Can I check your driving license, please? That might be Dan Purdy. I don't know. Trading and negotiation might be this chap Hammond, because this is what he did at Leeds, And then you've got football operations. Who the hell runs that? No idea. Strategy. Yeah, we need one of those. So there's a blank canvas, and a blank canvas is fine if you're optimistic you can fill it with good people. But we've got a real important summer ahead, and what I fear is that we will take easy decisions. By which I mean, give DCL a new contract. He's a good lad, he gets the club and all of this nonsense. When are we ever going to be brave enough to have a rebuild and get a new Everton and not just go back to the familiar, easy decisions? And if you have an absence of people there, then it's more likely that you'll go for those easy options.
That makes me feel that what you've just said there makes me feel nervous when you start talking about all these different roles that are rocking up. All of these different individuals that have got like decent CVs, and you look at him and think, oh, do you know what? He's going to come in. He's going to be that sort of missing link that we've never had here to go and put in together a decent group of recruitment that are going to take us forward. That makes me a little nervous, because when is it? Well, it's never worked for us, as far as I know. And I think it's seldom the amount of times you see it work a lot of places. That's why you see so much celebration, if you like, towards like a Brighton or what's happening at Bournemouth now as well. When you see their recruitment looks pretty effective, then it shines a lot lighter than it perhaps actually is, because nobody else is doing any good themselves. I think that the bar is quite low to be able to make it successful or make it look successful in that way. And I think you're right there, Roger. I mean, it's something that I've said for quite some time, and I think it should be very much near the top of the list of the mentality we have when we leave Goodison. And that is loving the lads. That is, oh, he's great, hasn't he done? He's been a great servant to the club, and I'm not dismissing the likes of Seamus and things like that, because he's going to have a testimony at some point, and a couple of other players are, and all of that stuff's great. And there's an Everton tradition there, but I feel there's an Everton tradition in certain aspects of our club that's held us back. That's probably too firm of a term to say it, the way in which it's been, but it's certainly been prioritised more than other things that should have been a lot more essential than that. And we have to shy away from that sort of thing. I'm not saying do a complete 180 on being the Everton way, and we want us to play a particular style of football, we want a particular style of player. Now's an opportunity there, and you mentioned, and we have several times of having sort of a blank slate here to go and work with. It needs to be treated as such in a serious way. You can't just sit there and say, oh, do you know what, we'll go and get this, we'll go and get that, we'll do this different than we've done previously. These things I'd like to think are set in stone. Am I too optimistic with that? Remains to be seen. But like you mentioned there, certain names and certain roles that I'm thinking, that sounds great on paper, that sounds brilliant when you look at a business infrastructure and whatnot. Does that work at Everton? Don't know. Should we keep it more simple? Should there be a simplicity to the way in which we sort of move forward here with all of this? I would suggest, yeah, because I don't think it's rocket science to look at Everton and think, what do we do better? It's not. Us three can sit here all day and talk about how Everton should be doing better, and I would think, not to put too fine a point on us being three intelligent people and decent football fans, that we could do a lot better. But I don't think it'd be difficult to make the club look more progressive than they are right now, and they have been in recent years.
I think the worry for me is that it's such a big rebuilding job, and there's no sort of it's not a very stable base to build on, is it? So like you say, Roger, we're making new appointments all over the club behind the scenes, but it's the players, the playing staff that terrifies me as well, because we're in a position where we can't let 13 players go, because we simply will not be able to replace 13 players. So we are in a bit of a bind where, and we discussed this over the weekend, where we're probably going to try and offer DCL a contract, purely because to go and replace him would cost us a lot more. And I think there's probably a few players who fall into that category that we're probably going to keep on just to have the bodies in, which it's not exactly an ideal start, is it? And when I know there's no sort of home advantage at Goodison this season, or there hasn't been, because it's been a pretty wretched season as far as winning games goes. But I think it will be a noticeable lack of home advantage at the new ground, because it'll be new to everyone. So I think that's my worry next season, and I think it kind of crystallised a little bit on Saturday, because I did realise then that every position, bar about 3, is up for grabs there, and it's not ideal, is it, going into a new ground and a new season?
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, you've said, Dave, what could the Friedkins do differently? And you said basically do the opposite of whatever Mashiri did. Agree with that. But I think at a broader level, the one thing the Friedkins can do is just stop the sentimentality. We've had an overdose, and rightly so. Saturday was emotional, just watching the banners and reading all the stuff, social media afterwards, and it's an emotional time for us all to be saying goodbye to the old lady, and maybe we can have our final dose of sentimentality, and hopefully we'll batter Southampton and they won't spoil the party. Although who knows? They only need 1 point, don't they, to not be the worst team ever. But if we can lose the sentimentality, I mean, the funniest thing about Saturday for me, I've mentioned this to you guys, is the Ben Godfrey lap of honour. What? I mean, help. What? We signed him from Norwich, and he was like an Olympic athlete. He had a couple of good games. Then I think Ashley Williams got in his ear, and he became shit. I mean, he really was dreadful as a defender. He really was.
Ashley Williams got in his ear.
Yeah, Ashley Williams has a lot to answer for. In terms of some of those players that he kind of made slightly worse than they were originally. And then he buggered off to somewhere or other on loan. Atalanta took him, and then think there might have been a case of mistaken identity. They got shot of him, and he's now at Ipswich. Look, he's a professional footballer. He could play football, but he wasn't. It's not like he's an Everton legend, and he's doing a lap of honour, and everyone's applauding him. What on earth? Well, that was just a comedy moment, really. But we have to lose this sentimentality, don't we? Surely we just want. What I always admire about Liverpool is whenever they sign a player, they become instantly indoctrinated. I reckon they must put them in a darkened room for a couple of days, watch all the videos, and get them to learn their lines. And all of them come out and they all speak in exactly the same way about the football club in a positive, we're here to win trophies, not just, oh, I'm delighted to be at Everton. They've got a great history and a fantastic fan base, because that is literally all we have, a fantastic, loyal fan base and a great history. Yesterday was yesterday or the day before was the anniversary of our last league title, 1987, Van den Hau's goal at Norwich, which I remember vividly. And haven't won anything since then, league title-wise. One FA Cup, of course, yeah, and a couple of silly cup finals in those post-European days against Palace and Forest, which we managed to lose. So it's a long time ago since we won the league. And that history is waning and waning all the more. So this opportunity for a new start is absolutely essential. And I don't think we'll ever be able to have a new start until we throw away the shackles of sentimentality, which are still all over the club. And I don't know how, because nearly everyone's left. So this is what the Freakins, for me, have to do, is lose that sentimentality, be more ruthless, be more professional, and let's be competitive, because bloody hell, there's a lot of other teams in a better, stronger position than us, and top half is a tough ask next season.
Yeah, we did touch on that on mailbag. Question from Dave, who did a post match with us on Saturday. He was speaking about the anniversary of Bayern Munich game, and it's like, how often can we keep going back to that? It's like it's great. It's a great part of our history, but we are becoming like Wolves or Preston, one of those. So when I was a kid, Wolves and Preston were massive clubs, but in a totally different era. That's what Everton are like now, to like people sort of growing up now. It's just like, yeah, they were probably big ones, but they just sort of hang around in the Premier League and that's all they do. So it is, I mean, to shake that is going to be difficult. And next season, I've no doubt, is going to be difficult, because if you look at the clubs around us, Man United will have a big rebuild. Tottenham will have a big rebuild, because both of them have got the money to do that. West Ham probably, but Potter's in charge, so who knows what's going to go on there. And then you've got Wolves, Palace, Fulham, Brighton, Brentford, Bournemouth, all directly ahead of us. Much better teams than us. Maybe not. Yeah, well, probably are actually. Yeah, because they're ahead of us in the table. So it is going to be tough next season, and that, like I said before, that's what's worrying me. Just the scale of the rebuild. It seems everything is coming at once. It's not like behind the scenes and the club's pretty stable, we're sorted there, let's just sort the playing staff out, or vice versa. It's everything at once. And I don't know, Dave, I am feeling a little bit of trepidation now. And even with leaving Goodison, I'm like, are we making a terrible mistake here? I don't know. I might just be being nostalgic there, but it does feel like there's a lot going on at once.
Many people who are listening to this will probably think that I've put it all together, that I've put the script together for this, because I can't stand sentimental in most life, really. But in particular with Evan, I can't stand sentimentality with the football club, to the, I don't know, closest extent of not wanting to hear certain things like that. I mean, obviously Bayern Munich, obviously the history stuff, obviously the DNA of Everton and all that sort of thing, which, I nearly throw up saying that myself, because I'm completely different to most, if not all, fans with that regard. And it does have a time and a place. But I think the club they've overused it, because it's been simple to cover everything that's gone on underneath it. And right now you're in a position where we're all demanding a change. We're all demanding a new version of Everton to go to a new stadium with new owners. That won't deter the club from maintaining that level of sentiment with fans, because firstly, they know it sells. Secondly, our older generation of fans will still adore all that, which again, it's absolutely fine. Everybody's got their own opinion and their own thoughts on that. I'd like to see, and look, I'm approaching 40 years old now. I'm certainly not a young fan, but I would like to think that younger fans at our club want a complete change in who they support. Not least because most of their mates in the city we're from will be supporting the gang of pricks over the roads, you know, and that makes me feel for them, because I feel as if the shackles are on when it comes to why the club can't quite move on from this. Because when we get to when we went to the test events at the new stadium, there was still plenty of Everton history, association with everything that's going on around there, you know, on the big screen, all that sort of thing. And look, that's fine, that's going to happen. That's going to be a big part of when we move there. It's taking the old to the new, but keeping the old as much as we can, i.e. we'd like to take Gladys Street and all of these sorts of various things that people have said there. That's great, but how long can that last? It can't last long, in my opinion. You need to move on from that. You need us three need to be sat in a pub going, do you remember this? Do you remember that game? Do you remember when we did this? Do you remember when we did that? Oh yeah, Goodison was great for that night. Fine, but that can't be overawing everything else that needs to be sorted at the club there. And I think that's a really difficult mentality change, let alone how the club deal with it itself. Because I think that the club have found that as a really easy go-to way to convince everybody things aren't as bad as they've been, and we haven't needed the drastic changes that we've needed. And I feel as if now we're in a position where a lot who are like that are actually starting to open their eyes, or I'd like to think they're opening their eyes into what this club needs to do, rather than be, we're Everton, we're one of the greatest clubs that's ever been made. Well, that's fine. That's why a lot of people support Everton, families, generations, all of that sort of thing that we all know about. This doesn't wash in the modern day. This doesn't wash when it comes to having to achieve something in this game. Roger mentioned there 87 when we last won a title, 95 when we last won a trophy. The things associated with that, the song we hear all the time, the Big Joe song by The Farm, all that sort of thing. Lovely, great. I love that song. Let's get something new put on there. And how do we go about that? Well, moving away from what we've seen with it. Time and a place in the museum, go and sitting over there, go and have a look at something that you can pay a £5 for, and go and have a look around it and think, wow, Everton are an amazing team. Give it to all the tourists that come into the city. Fantastic. Everything else has to be brand new. Everything else has to be a football club that is able to come on to be in 2026. That's a club that looks like it's going to go and succeed, and it has to do it in a particular way, because there's no other way of doing it these days, which is unfortunate, absolutely. But in a position where Everton can't be the Everton we've always known in order to go and succeed, I think that's pretty simple and straightforward.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
You watched that video on. Sorry to jump in. There was a video again on Football Focus of the Goodison Park, the history of Goodison Park, right? And it starts off winning league titles and World Cups and Eusebio and Pele and league titles in the 80s and the Bayern Munich game. And then it just turns into relegation dogfights. You know, and that's the story of Everton. That's the story of the last 40 years. And it's criminal what's gone on. It's criminal the way that this club has been allowed to wither on the vine and just dying out on sentimentality of years and years and years ago. And the fans have been taken for mugs. Without these fans, without the efforts of Coach Greets and all of the stuff that various fan groups, 1878 especially, have done, we would have gone down in one of the last 3 or 4 seasons if the fans hadn't stood up and been counted. And it's now time. It's now time for the club, whatever that even fucking means, because I don't know who is actually accountable. There's an American chap called Mark Watts, and there's a CEO coming across the Pennines. Who is actually accountable for the club? It's time to repay the fans' loyalty with some decent football, with some professionalism and an infrastructure that can support a 21st century Premier League club, because we don't have that at the moment. We have nothing. And one of the reasons we have such a big summer ahead is the academy is producing nothing. May as well close it down. and it's not producing players to even sell or approach the bench, and it's a mess. But it's a bank holiday Monday and the sun is shining, so let's turn to more positive things. Liam Delap has signed for Everton. He signed before the game. How incredible was that? He went into the house on Goodison Road and signed the wall. That's it. It's done, isn't it?
I think I tell you what. I think he was in there 3 till 5 because I didn't see him on the fucking pitch.
Well, let's dig into that then, shall we?
If he signs by all accounts, he says he's never seen a worse centre forward display at Goodison Park. So,
I mean, he wasn't great, was he? Let's dig into that then, because that's a rumour that Moyes has been stoking himself, sort of saying, yeah, we're very interested in this player. I've seen him twice this season. Obviously, that's not really much to go on, but he's not stood out in either game for me. His goal scoring record's decent this season. I think he's got 12 goals, which is, it's a good return in the Premier League. But are we really in a position where we can, have one good season in the Premier League and we spend 30 million on a striker? It seems like a massive gamble to me. As I said, it's probably not fair to judge on 2 games that I've seen him, but I would have liked to have seen a bit more than him just like kicking the shit out of defenders on Saturday. But I don't know, I didn't see anything there that stood out. What did you think?
Would you rather spend the 30 million on getting Richarlison back then?
Well, no, that's another thing, isn't it?
Well, that's FC sentimental. Here you go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, he straddles both the fork in the road we've been speaking about there, Roger, in sort of how the club steps forward. With Richarlison, look, I think the majority of the fan base would go and pick him up in a taxi and bring him back because they adore him that much. But again, there's a sentimental part of that as well, I think, because when he did go, lest we forget, he wanted to go, or did he want to go? He left anyway. That's the fact of the matter. Yes, he's come back and people have applauded him. I can't stand all that sort of thing when he's on the pitch and he claps and he's gutted that he scored against us and all that. Don't score against us, mate. if you're apologetic of it when you go and do it. And with the lap, I think that there are mitigating circumstances there. I mean, I haven't watched him that much, admittedly, but every single place I read, hear from fans and pundits and former players say that this lad's the real deal. That he's going to be one of the upcoming stars in the Premier League. I think the first thing I'm going to put in his favour is the fact that he's playing at a relegated side. They've come through promotion after promotion after promotion. They're not a Premier League outfit. We've seen them. I mean, they remind me a hell of a lot of Luton. The way Luton were great to watch, and you put them on the telly and you think, wow, this is great watching 5-a-side football and mounds of goals are going to be scored.
Just gone down to League One, by the way, Luton.
I know, yeah.
Again.
Remarkable.
Quickly on that, this is my concern with it. So Adebayo at Luton looked really good last season. Got 10 goals, looked a handful. Yeah. He scored 5 this season in the Champ, and they've got relegated. Yeah. Now you stick him in a Premier League team this season. What would he have done? It's like he's clearly not good enough, and I just think the lad could potentially fall into that category. Just looking 23, 24, he scored 8 goals in the Championship. So
there's nuances to these players, Les. And whether they sort of fit where they've gone to. Will he in amongst them? It's interesting because I was having a debate with some lads there on Twitter both last night and this morning before we started talking about Betto, saying you make him our number 9 next season, and I sort of shrugged a little bit when people were talking about that, saying, how difficult is it to go and score double figures in the Premier League? And I thought, you know what, that's a relatively fair point. But yes, it's difficult. But does that mean it's what we want? Does that mean that's the level we're at? Does that mean that's what we're saying is a decent achievement when you go to a new stadium, you're trying to kick Everton onto another level that doesn't involve us in the relegation fight every season? Absolutely not. Betto should not be a Premier League striker, a starting Premier League striker. I've just done a trend there by saying starting, by the way. Starting Premier League striker. If he starts the opening day of the season, and not injury based, with injury problems withstanding, I think Everton have got issues there. If with all due respect to him, scoring some crucial goals and whatnot, and giving everything he can at the club, sentiment alert there, then I fear that we haven't gone and addressed an issue that is essentially up there. And I know we've started the sort of talk today about, what you prioritise here, but there's so many, like you say, I've repeated again, there's so many different roles in that squad that needs addressing. I would think that the one that's up front is either top of that list or equal to other things we have to do when we talk about fullbacks and midfield players and how many are out of contract and all that sort of thing. Getting a new striker in is essential. I think that's essential with or without the Calvert-Lewin situation sorted or not. Whether he goes, whether he stays, Everton needs a new striker. And you can't go with a half-assed approach with this, thinking, oh, you know what, Betto went and scored 10 goals and most of them he come on off the bench and did well and did this and did that. That's just not going to cut it in this league. And, you refer that to what we've spoken about when you've got new owners come in and you structure all of these lads that we don't know the names of and all of these roles that we've never heard before. They're all coming in and we should look at it with relative optimism because it's different. Something that's different, I think, is something that we all agree is what we need. So, let's hope it's the right difference. But if you're going into a season with players there that you think, yeah, okay, in a relegation fight, he'll do a job for you, or he'll help keep you in the Premier League and get to 40 points. Is that where we're at? Is that where we want to be at going into this ground? Is that where we're feasibly can't change and can't get any better? I don't think so. So, you talk your Delaps, you talk about other players, you talk about the lads at Luton. Some work, some don't. Some just suit a club, some don't. And, some like the physicality and the difference of Premier League football, and they do going down and kicking shit out of each other in the Championship and lower. Look, it's hard to work that out, isn't it? But one thing I would say, to just a bit of an asterisk at the end of that, is what David Moyes has gone and done is good at those sorts of things. He's been able to go to that level and bring up and look at a real positive effect that one of those players has had. Is that doable these days? Not sure.
I thought Betto took his goal very well on Saturday, though. Just putting my positive hat up.
It was a great
goal. But I have to say, I've never heard a better description of him than you, Les, saying he was two back ends of a pantomime horse running around the pitch. I thought that was very good. That made me spit my coffee out when I was listening to the post-match. He's not good enough for the Premier League. He's scored a few goals, but he's not good enough to lead the line and be a starting number 9. Sorry, lovely chap, but if somebody offers us 10 million, sell him.
Yeah, I think so. Just on the lap, though, I mean, for me, does he feel like the easy option? Because he's kind of the flavour of the month and, he's got a release clause of 30 million. It just smacks of a bit of a lack of imagination, a bit like when we signed BT. He never really fitted in, did he? Never felt like he was going to fit in. It's got the potential to be that for me. And I think we should be looking at Liam Delap before he gets to the Premier League. Like you said, Dave, like Moyes did really well at the first spell. Go to the Championship and find these players. You look at the two lads at Brentford, both on 18 goals. Go and get players like that, for a fraction of the cost, because it's less. It's still a risk. Any player's a risk, but it just feels a little bit of a lack of imagination to me. And I do think he'll probably end up at Newcastle, and he'll probably have a belter of a season there. Now we've said all this, but I just don't. It just doesn't feel right for us. What do you think, Rog?
I think we're signing him. I mean, why is he signing? Yeah, I do. Why on earth did he sign the wall in the house? What?
Yeah.
Why did he do that? That's before the match. Why? What on earth? What, he went out of the Ipswich dressing room and said, "I just need to pop it." It was just a crazy thing to do.
That is the most random and blatantly obvious thing.
Strange,
yeah.
Completely mad. And so I think Moyes likes him, and fair play. If we're going to build he's a tall lad. So what we're going to do, play a big lad and a little lad, play and die off him. We're going to play a 3 and a 1. But I think we're going to get
him and Betto, Roger.
Oh my God.
Twin Towers.
Oh dear. I think so. I mean, it's gut feeling, that's all. But it's a gut feeling on the basis that he walked into a house and signed the wall. He doesn't even play for us.
That's a fair point.
By the way, I'm a big fan of Kieran McKenna. I think he'll go on to bigger and better things. I think he's a good Premier League manager wherever he ends up. But if that happens and your striker's gone across the road there and said, "Give me 10 minutes before I start warming up for the game just to sign this wall," you'd be having kittens. You'd be going absolutely ballistic. He wouldn't be in the squad if he did that. That's a million times worse than when Beckford turned up at about half an hour through the game that time when he was walking across. Remember that one?
He got stuck on the M62. It was a cup tie against Reading, wasn't it? And he got stuck on the M62.
Yeah. You know, and that is bizarre. You know, I never thought about it this deeply, really. But you're absolutely right. Who goes and does that unless there's an agenda that is around it? And you know, I mean, what are you going to do as a fan there? Like you're singing Everton songs while he's doing it as well. Great for those guys, by the way. I think it's great.
Yeah, it was.
You're right. What's actually come of it? If you're an Ipswich fan and you want him to stay, I'd be kicking. I'd be booing him all over the place. Me, he wouldn't be getting back in the coach or playing or whatever it is to get down here from up there.
If it was our player doing that, at someone else's club, we wouldn't be
getting back, would they?
You'd get a dog's life for it. No. But just on strikers, we could probably do with a striker like Graeme Sharp, which leads us into the next bit. He was back at Goodison. His self-imposed exile is over. What's gone on there?
Well, you know, I'm delighted for him personally that he's decided to step back into the place where he's adored or was adored or however anybody thinks of him these days. Because I worked with him that long and I know how personally it hit him, given the situation, what happened. And look, that I repeat again, not to sort of just sort of like not step into it too deeply with anything I know personally about it, but something that hits you hard when something happens in your life that you didn't think would, you know, what I always put towards people who despise him now, which is a hell of a lot out there, is, do you think Graeme Sharp didn't like Everton that much to put himself in a role that saw us all turn our back on him? Did he intend to do that? No, he didn't. Look, is that me being sympathetic towards him? Yeah, it probably is. But you do that you have the best of intentions when you do something at a club that you love, and he did that. How it worked out there, how it ended up, all of the shit that happened, both before it, during, and around it, and after it, is all that in his control? We don't fully know. Well, certainly all of it wasn't in his control, was it? But I mean, the saying is, a lot of people that have come out and said it on social media now is, you know, it's water under the bridge, and you know we need to kick on, and he needs to be there in the last day of the season. I do agree with that, because he's a massive part of Everton's history. So I mean, yeah, it was good. In my point of view, it was good to see him back.
Yeah, what do you think, Rog?
Just a tough one, isn't it? You know, he was a favourite player of mine. I met him a couple of times, chatted to him, seemed like a nice bloke, but I think he said some pretty stupid things in the aftermath of Headlock Gate, and I think he was very dismissive of the fans, and I think he got a little bit seduced by power and being on the inside in Bill's secret tent. I don't think it should ever have come to how it came to, and I do think you have to separate, if possible, Sharpie the player and the legend, the goal scoring legend that he was, and how he's behaved in the last few years, which I think was pretty poor. But you know, let bygones be bygones, I suppose. It was kind of on the cards, wasn't it? So that now he can come on the pitch and they'll all get applauded on Sunday week. So let's not make a drama out of a ridiculous drama that wasn't of the fans making. It was all of the clubs making, and the stupid briefings that they put out. And Sharp was kind of the lightning rod for that with his comments. So yeah, I mean, he's back. Yeah, but sentimentally wise, yeah, doesn't really. I don't want to get into overly emotional about back where he belongs and all of that nonsense, because I think he burnt the bridges himself.
Yeah, I think possibly the worst. What was worse for me than the Headlock one was when he just dismissed the fans' protest as one man and his dog. I think that was the worst one for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it really did undermine what fans were trying to do at that point. You know, whether you agree with what the fans were trying to do or not, there was definitely the club was in a bad state and they just wanted better. So to just completely undermine them like that, that one really didn't sit right with me, and that's sort of where I sort of turned against them really. But yeah, like you say, he was a big part of that team.
Was that the time when he was seen with Darren Griffiths on the reception, basically laughing at everybody when they were walking past?
Yeah.
Is that the situation, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah. I can't actually remember quite what process it was because we've had that many over the years. But yeah, it was fans were just showing a legitimate concern. I don't know. It might have been.
The clown and the listen. I mean, you talk about sentiment. The clown and the cake is excused. I'm happy to have the clown and the cake come with us to Bramley Moore, along with Mr. Testicle
and the dog.
I tell you what,
the dog. Yeah.
If there's no clown and no cake at the last game, I'll be very, very disappointed.
Or dog, or Mr. Testicles, or Mr. Condom.
Sorry, I missed that. I cut out then. Yeah, he's a big part of Everton's history, isn't he? So,
Dave was making a point about there being no testicles.
Right, of course.
Can we get sponsored by Durex because we have Mr. Condom?
I've frozen again there. With the winky eye. Yeah. That's the one. Right. My internet's throwing me a massive hint here and it's dying on me. So I think that's where we should bring Blue Monday to a close for this week. Yeah, let us know what you think about all that in the comments. Happens on that final Sunday of the season. Thanks to everyone who's listened and watched along with us. We've got all the usual stuff coming up this week. That's been it for this week's Blue Monday. Thanks to Roger. Thanks to Dave. We'll catch you next time.